This week I'm here at a local Circle K, which is one of 11 listed in the Alternative Fuels Data Center database by Circle K as newly added electric vehicle charging stations. Let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so this particular station is in Salisbury, North Carolina, immediately off Interstate 85 on the Julian Road exit. This Circle K is newly constructed, so it's a net new building, and they put electric vehicle charging in with the build of the facility. Now, I know that this station has been open a while, but it just got recently added to the Alternative Fuels Data Center database, along with 10 additional ones. Let me run through those real quick. There's 3 in the state of Colorado. That's Monument, Colorado, Broomfield, and Aurora. In addition to those 3 are 2 in Quebec, Myrtle Beach, San Antonio, Texas, Payson, Arizona, Morton, Illinois, Willis, Texas, and Orlando, Florida. So Circle K going big with additions to the Alternative Fuels Data Center database, EV Station Edition, including this one, and very similar to every Circle K station we have. As you can see, you got the dual-handled ABB Terra 184s, the unique signage that shows chargers, the painted lines with the circle lightning bolt, very characteristic, immediately adjacent to the facility. So very nice stations, and they are nice that they're also positioning them along travel corridors and also within municipalities for people who are doing daily grind sort of recharges. So they have a really good mix, and they've been quiet for a while, so it was really nice to see all these additions start to come online, because I kind of thought they had put their plans on hold, but that is definitely not the case. Circle K is still churning on along, adding new stations. Okay, in addition to that, there was a bit of a curiosity. Love's, similarly, I've been thinking, had a pause button pressed as a result of the whole NEVI situation, because they're very highly dependent as a result of being a privately held organization with not a lot of capital. They're family owned, and so they did take the opportunity for NEVI funding in order to build electric vehicle charging stations on their property, and they were awarded quite a few stations, but one that was not on the NEVI list showed up in the Alternative Fuels Data Center database. It was at Smith's Station in Alabama. So I decided to phone a friend in order to get the scoop on what's going on here. So let's go to Alan Yates. I'm here with Alan Yates. Alan, how's it going, man?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on today, Walter.
It's been a pleasure watching the content coming out of your channel. It's really well done, and we were seeing a lot of inertia with Loves during the NEVI heyday, but that seems to have come to a screeching halt, unfortunately. And we do see still some activity going on in Pennsylvania and a few other things that we want to talk about as far as the progress of the project. But before we do so, if we could just kind of take a step back and first introduce yourself and your channel, and then if you could kind of give us a brief overview of Loves as far as who they are as a company and their electric vehicle charging announcements and what they've done to date. And I know that's a lot to bite off all at once, but we'll make a conversation.
No, that's fine. Yeah. My YouTube channel is just my name, Alan Yates. There's nothing special.
There we go.
This was just a little bit of a passion project for me, so I haven't started any separate channels. So you can just search up my name and Loves, and you'll probably find me there in the search results. I really started following this project because I live down in Huntsville, Alabama, and Loves was one of the big NEVI awardees in our state. Of course, I see them all over the Southeast. I've stopped it there as a gas car user, back in the day, and they're just good places to stop. So that's what initially sparked my passion for this project.
You don't have any gas cars anymore?
I do not. No, we drive two EVs.
Yeah, so, I know. It's like once you get the bug, it's like hard to go.
Yeah, it is. My wife was very skeptical. I've heard the story a million times. I got a Model 3 in 2019, and she drove it 3 times. I was like, yeah, I'm going to need one of those. That's the way it goes.
Sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
No worries. So yeah, I kind of got into this project again because of the state of Alabama, and noticed they were really relying heavily on these NEVI awards across the U.S. for their build out, and that still appears to be the case. Really, I haven't seen them execute a site yet that hasn't had some sort of grant funding, primarily NEVI, but there are some other sources as well that I think we'll get into in just a minute. So rephrase your question for me if you would. I lost
Yeah,
the back half
no.
of
That
it.
was my fault. I kind of brain dumped a whole bunch of things all at once. So, Love's as a company, um, I've talked to some long haul truckers, and they seem to think that Love's is like the best of the options out there on the interstate. Love's is like the best option, and I don't know if you've used them in the past. You mentioned that you have used them during gas car days, and really the only time I've been there is as of late when I was doing the Pilot Flying J project, and I just stopped by just to see what the competition was doing and things like that. But I haven't really used them much, but at least that's my understanding of how the brand is perceived out there. I don't know if you've heard similar.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of overlap with Pilot Flying J at the Love sites. My experience is that they have very clean bathrooms, which is what you want on a road trip. They have grab and go food, lots of car and trucking accessories, CB radios, USB cables, all that kind of stuff that you could find at Pilot Flying J as well. They often partner with some kind of fast food chain. You'll see Arby's, Wendy's, Subway, sometimes a combination of those restaurants at the Love sites. So again, similar to Pilot Flying J, they basically got everything you need on a long road trip.
Yeah, and right off the interstate exit, I seem to see they're always positioned very close to interstate exits, making them perfect for road trips, as you say.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, what have they been doing to date as far as electric vehicle charging? I know there were some announcements, and they started to build some sites. And you mentioned that they've been sticking with the NEVI awards and whatnot.
Yeah, so prior to about the middle of last year, they did not seem to have a cohesive strategy as a brand for EV charging. They partnered with a lot of different charge point operators, Tesla, some slower or lower power charge point locations, EA, Francis in Oklahoma. So as those charge point providers needed a site, Love's would partner with them and they install the hardware, but it was not initiated by Love's in any way that I can tell. And then the middle of last year, they had an announcement that they were going in themselves for this EV charging program. So since that time, there's been over 80 or 90 NEVI awards to Love's in many different states, and they've started the build out of that program, particularly in the states where the NEVI awards were made early on. So those are Pennsylvania and New York. Their planned sites are completely built out in those two states. Those are the major ones you've seen so far. Just here recently, there have been a couple that have gone under construction in Kentucky as well.
Oh, okay.
Which is one of the states that had some earlier awards and has committed to outlaying their obligated NEVI funds even after this pause from the FHWA in February.
And it seems that they are going with a premium feel for their stations. I've been seeing canopies. I've been seeing top of the line hardware. Has that been your experience as well so far?
Yeah. All of the new sites are using the ChargePoint Express hardware. So those are the units that can dispense power out of two ports simultaneously. The power ratings on those run anywhere from 320 to 400 kilowatts. So, on split power, you'd be at 160 to 200. This is very similar to some of the early Mercedes-Benz sites, if your viewers are familiar with those similar units. They are all thus far pull-in type stalls. I haven't seen any that are great for towing, unfortunately, but that's all right. They do all have canopies, not necessarily when the sites are open. There have been several where they've opened the units but not had the canopy up yet and have come back and installed that. But they have committed to doing that at all of their new sites. So they look pretty good. I unfortunately am far enough away from all the new ones. I haven't had a chance to visit them personally yet, but they look good in pictures.
Well, hopefully that's going to change, because the reason you're on here today is one station in particular that we'll get into in just a second. But nothing's nicer than a electric vehicle charging station at a travel center with a canopy immediately off an interstate exit. I mean, that is a pretty nice offering that they're coming up with. So hopefully the NEVI thing will continue, and those 80 plus stations that were on the boards will get built, at least to some extent or another. But as I mentioned, just this past week, I noticed in the Alternative Fuels Data Center database a location in your neck of the woods, Smith's, is it Smith's plural station?
Smith Station, that's right.
Oh, Smith's Station.
Yeah.
Was showing as open, and then like the next day it showed as closed again. So I guess they were just kind of testing the interoperability with ChargePoint or something, but very likely that station will soon to be open, so your chance to be able to actually go see one. And I understand it's on the opposite end of Alabama, and Alabama's a bigger state when you try to drive it north to south versus east to west.
Well, I do have some family down that way, so I have good opportunities to find myself in the area. So,
yeah, now you got a reason to go visit them.
That's right. We actually went by that site a couple of weeks ago on the way down to Florida, so I got to see it under construction. Everything was there other than the canopy and the meter being set. So it does it looks like opening is imminent for that one.
Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. The state of Alabama has basically canceled their NEVI program, or
well, so in core, the program here is administered through a group called ADECA. It's not the Department of Transportation. It's the Alabama. I'm going to forget the acronym now, but I've corresponded with that group, and they've indicated that they're pausing any outlay of funding or additional agreements until there is clarity from the FHWA. So I wouldn't say that it is canceled. It's just that for whatever reason, they've decided not to take the risk in continuing the program until they have clarity about what's going to happen at the federal level.
Which leads me to question, how did this station get funded? Because as you say, so far, Love's has only been building stations where they've been able to receive some form of subsidies in one form or fashion. And if this is not a NEVI station, did they get funding sources from another source or something?
Yeah, so several years ago, Alabama instituted a state level program. So we have a $200 a year EV registration fee, like many other states. $150 of that fee goes to replace lost fuel taxes from gasoline sales. But the last $50 goes into a grant program that the state administers to put chargers in more rural areas of the state. Their intent with this program was to put stations in areas that would not be covered by NEVI, which is why you see this station in Smith Station on US Highway 431 rather than an interstate route. So it was funded, I forget the exact timing, maybe 12 or 18 months ago, and is now moving into construction, which is why you're seeing this one done and not the others that were NEVI awarded in Alabama.
That's interesting. So we had a little bit over 80 stations receive NEVI awards, but then there's additional stations out there that are receiving funding from alternative sources. Are there other ones that are proceeding now that NEVI has kind of run its course in Pennsylvania, New York, and other states seem to be pressing the pause button? Do you know other Love stations that are continuing with builds now?
Yeah, we've had one recently in, I believe it's Ritzville, Washington, that's under a Washington State grant program as well.
Oh, okay. Pacific Northwest. All right.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't had many go to construction over on the west side of the country here with Love, so it's good to see that. They have another that was awarded in the same batch of funding in Tacoma, Washington, so I would expect that one is going to be under construction before too long as well.
Well, very cool. So hopefully, although NEVI seems to be in a questionable state, we still have a CPO that was dependent on alternate sources of funding still proceeding and finding a way to still make forward progress with the new normal. So anyway, Alan, much appreciated for coming on and filling us in, and hopefully you'll be charging at Smith Station in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I hope so. Thanks so much for having me, Walter. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Much appreciated, Alan, for adding the color to the Loves project. And it's nice to see that although NEVI seems to be mostly on hold, at least in the majority of the country, there's still progress being made with the Loves electric vehicle charging station builds. Proceeding on, Mercedes-Benz high-powered charging has added a station in Massachusetts, starting to get into the upper East Coast in Lee Premium Outlets at what looks to be a very nice build with Alpitronic hyperchargers, Mercedes-branded charging station, chargers, and welcome pricing. So much appreciated by Mercedes-Benz from the local population up there. EVgo didn't do anything last week, but this week they made up for it with 5 stations. And if you haven't followed EVgo's progress, they're very heavy in the state of California for some reason. I don't know exactly the reasoning why. I know their headquarters are out there, but most CPOs go national. But the native EVgo stations, by and large, end up in the state of California. And this week is no exception. 5 brand new stations, all 5 in the state of California. 4 of them were 8 stalls, and the last one was 6 stalls. So that seems to be the new normal for EVgo. 8 stalls, 6 stalls, somewhere in that ballpark. Gone are the days where they do 2 stalls or 1 stall. 350 kilowatts seems to be the only thing they add, unless there's some kind of compliance where they need to put in a city charger with a Chatham won't handle. And definitely hitting their game. They've got a lot of funding available to them, both through General Motors, the Pilot Flying J through the EVgo Extend is going on, and as far as I know, the Department of Energy's loan guarantee is still in play, and they've been receiving money from that as well. So we should see some pretty good things coming out of EVgo in the coming weeks as well. The Rivian Adventure Network went to Asheville, North Carolina, the place hit by Hurricane Helene, and opened a 6-stall station at the Asheville Outlet Mall. The nice thing about this is there was an EVgo, there was a Tesla station, but the Tesla station is not open to non-Tesla, and an EVgo station. But the EVgo station, everyone who is a local hates that EVgo station. It is long ago been out of service. It's like 15 years old and definitely needs to be retired. And there's some word that EVgo may do that, but in the interim, Rivian Adventure Network showed up and opened a 6-stall station. Tesla opened 5 new stations. They normally do somewhere between single digits, low double digits on any given week, and this week it was 5 stations open. The one of note, after I did my update on Friday into the Alternative Fuels Data Center database, seems to be the Henrietta, Oklahoma one, which apparently has been on the build list for going on 5 years, and finally has figured out how to get energy delivered to it and has finally opened. There was a couple of people who chimed in saying how excited they were about that. There's 2 in the Northeast, 1 in New Hampshire and 1 in Massachusetts. The New Hampshire one is at Hooksett and Plymouth, Massachusetts. Both have new supercharger stations. Lastly, Electric Era, and I mentioned that on a update a couple of weeks ago. They opened a new station. It's 8 stalls in Williams, California, off Interstate 5. Thank you very much for watching.